Valencia Stovall, former state representative, on the issues and answers here on WCEG Talk Radio Network. You can watch us live on Smart TV, YouTube, on with WCEG Network. We're the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram at WCEG _talk _radio and at WCEG Network. And I must give you all this disclaimer. The topics and opinions that are here on this show are of the show hosts and guests and not WCEG Network. And we thank you for your continued support over the years and with this program. So we're back here again on Monday, February the 15th. I'm excited as always, even though it's wet outside, but it's dry on the inside, but not dry as was the program that we want to have. So today, first of all, I want to always take time to acknowledge and appreciate and have a moment of silence and prayer for those who are suffering through the coronavirus. Every day those numbers are increasing, but we are thanking God and asking him to continue to keep us in his mercy and his grace so that we can be able to get through and get through it while we're going through it, and also get finished with this virus that infections have on our community here. And also, that's one of the reasons I want to take the time to, when I select the guests to be able to come on, to bring good information to you as a listener, a faithful listener. So today we're going to get right into our show. Today we have with us our special guest from the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. We have Deputy Commissioners, Tanya Curitan Curry, hopefully I didn't mess up her name, and she's the Deputy Commissioner with Housing. And we also have Rusty Haygood, who's the Deputy Commissioner with Development and Finance. And so I appreciate them taking time out of their very, very busy schedule to be with us this afternoon. And I want to give a special thanks to John Van Brunt and to Davia Lassiter with the Department of Community Affairs for making the connection for us. And I did want to put a plug in for the Georgia Department of Community Affairs program that they have that I am a part of, which is, I wrote my notes down. I am a graduate of the Georgia Academy of Economic Development. And that's the opportunity I got a chance, it's about 2 years now. I got a chance to find out more information about what DCA does and how they build a strong collaborative effort on the local and state levels with our local government. So I will stop there, and I don't know who wants to start with this, Tanya or Rusty, but they're going to talk to us about the 2021 priority areas with the Department of Community Affairs. And Department of Community Affairs, for those who may not know, they are one of about 40 agencies that we have here in the state. And so each one, of course, each one of the agencies have a different role that they play. So I'm going to allow them to kind of talk about their area of expertise. And then as we go along, if you have any questions, definitely make sure that you are putting your questions in on Facebook, and we'll try to get them in. And then I might have some questions as they're talking. So whoever wants to go first, I thank you again for being on the Issues and Answers with Honorable Valencia Stovall.
Well, Rusty, I'll go ahead and just jump in and give a little bit of an overview. And I'll start by saying thank you, Representative Stovall, for having us on. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak on your program and to your listeners. So this is a great opportunity for us. As you mentioned, the Department of Community Affairs is a state agency that helps to build strong, vibrant communities. And we do that through providing community support on their journeys toward growth and prosperity, helping them lay the groundwork for economic opportunities and local development efforts across the state. Our core businesses include safe and affordable housing, local government assistance, and community and economic development. and it reflects the diversity of our programs and drive for our communities to serve all Georgians. Hundreds of millions of dollars are distributed on an annual basis through the majority of that is federal funds that we receive from the federal government through grants, tax credits, loans, and other resources used to help us meet those goals and initiatives. And so we're very happy to do that on behalf of the state. And again, our focus is really in the safe and affordable housing framework, as well as economic development. Rusty and I kind of divide up those functions, and we don't have a lot of staff in comparison to other state agencies, but we have a strong and very knowledgeable group, and we appreciate all the work that our staff does. Rusty's probably going to lead off and give you some program highlights, as you mentioned, regarding some of our priorities, and then I will chime in with some of the housing priorities. Rusty?
Thank you, Tanya, and thank you, Representative Stovall, for the opportunity to be with you. As Tanya said, our mission is to help build strong, vibrant communities. And what we have to start with is a realization that each community is different. There's not a cookie cutter way to see Georgia communities grow. But what we do realize is that there are these core fundamental aspects that you can't have a true sense of community without. That's housing. If you don't have safe, adequate, affordable housing within your community, you've missed one of the foundational elements that a community needs to grow and to thrive. You've got to have jobs. You've got to have jobs so that those people can pay the mortgage, they can pay the rent, they can buy the groceries, they can do the things in the community that they need to do. And then you wrap that up with your community. There's infrastructure that has to be there, whether that's water and sewer, whether that's public facilities, you name it. There are a number of different things that make up community. And what we try to do is to be a resource to the 159 counties and 587 cities across the state as we try to take one step forward each and every day to make Georgia a better place for us to live and to work. One of the key areas that I really want to start and spend a little bit of time on that is a priority for us during this year is in the realm of broadband. And if you've listened to the General Assembly or you've listened to elected officials at the state level over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, you have heard the drumbeat of broadband, 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 and how that relates to connectivity. Since 2018, DCA has been a key part of that collaboration to develop the resources to get broadband into all corners of the state. We have partnered with the Carl Vinson Institute of Government, the Georgia Technology Association, and we formed the Georgia Broadband Deployment Initiative. What's happened out of that is we've created a map of the entire state to show what is served and what is unserved by broadband providers. And we use that as a tool so that stakeholders can figure out where to direct that broadband investment and how to encourage the partnerships. We've got to have public-private partnerships in all parts of the state to enhance high-speed internet access. We've got to make sure that there's the technical assistance available in the community so that you can partner community and provider so that federal funding could come into play. We want to make sure as much federal funding as possible can come into the state of Georgia and help eliminate some of the gaps to that service area. And then we need to make sure that we're all on the same page as we try to educate the leaders of this state and this country about the importance of broadband access. You may have seen or heard that in the State of the State last month, Governor Kemp proposed a 2-year, $30 million investment in broadband infrastructure for those unserved parts of the state. The Georgia Broadband Deployment Initiative is housed at DCA. And like I said, we partner with other state agencies as well. But that's instrumental in providing assistance to communities across the state as they seek to advocate and leverage those public and private partnerships that facilitate funding these initiatives. I mentioned we've been involved since 2018. In 2019, we started a broadband ready community certification. Since 2019, 12 parts of the state have achieved this certification. That could be cities, that could be counties. And this designation recognizes those local governments that have prioritized broadband in their comprehensive planning process. Last summer, we released the first map that showed location level data of where high-speed internet access was currently available. Through that, we noted over 500,000 homes and businesses didn't have access to high-speed internet.
Wow.
That's more than 70% of those are in rural Georgia, but there's still 30% of those 500,000 locations in the urban parts of the state as well. So what we're looking to do is improve the access to broadband, high-speed internet throughout the state of Georgia, and focus those allocations in the state budget on these unserved areas so that we can raise that standard throughout the entire state. Excuse me. If you have questions, I would recommend that you email those to broadband@dca.ga.gov. I'll repeat that, broadband@dca.ga.gov. With that, I'll take a break as it relates to broadband and toss it over to you, Tanya, for an important initiative that we have going on.
I have a quick question for you, Rusty. With the broadband, is majority of the focus?
Did I misspell her name?
I know majority of the focus when I was in the legislature was with rural.
Oh no, I changed it. Wait a minute.
Was with rural Georgia, and so
Okay, wait.
that particular Georgia broadband deployment
Yeah, it did. I changed it.
Initiative. Does it also include a large part of?
No, I changed it. I changed it to, I knew who it was, Valencia Stovall. I wanted a title thing.
Vivian.
And update titles.
Vivian, can you? We can hear you, Vivian. Okay, go ahead, Rusty.
Yes, ma'am. This is geared toward rural parts of the state. However, the way it's written is unserved Georgia. And that's really what we're looking to do. And on top of that, we're looking to bring in some of the federal funds that we received through the CARES stimulus program. And we're looking to partner that. And these CARES Act funds are available to be used all over the state. So what we want to do ultimately is couple $30 million of federal money with $30 million of state money and really make a dent in the broadband service provision gap that we have in the state.
Okay, thank you. All right, Tanya.
Great. Thank you so much. And we know how important broadband is to education, to businesses, to all of those things. And certainly most people access that through whatever their housing or shelter opportunity is. So at DCA, we recognize that is an important part of the puzzle as we try to support and reach our citizens. I have so much to say really about the housing opportunities that DCA provides. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our Georgia Dream Homeownership Program, as well as rental assistance programs. And I really want to categorize those in a few different ways. We've got home ownership and we've got housing assistance. So under the home ownership umbrella, we primarily have our Georgia Dream Home Ownership Program. And as we stated before, safe and affordable housing is a foundational element to an individual's quality of life. The Georgia Dream Home Ownership Program provides financial assistance for potential home buyers, and this is first-time home buyers. This is a statewide program available to everyone in every single corner of the state, and we help thousands of Georgians a year achieve that goal of home ownership. We do this through partnering with lenders and real estate professionals to provide information and resources for individuals that are desiring to transition from renting to home ownership. And so really what that means is if you are potentially renting a home at this time, there are opportunities for you to begin to take the steps that you need to take to reach home ownership. And so that might be working on your credit. That might be saving for a down payment. That might be figuring out what your budget's going to be so that you can make the payments that you need and save the money to take care of home-related expenses and those types of things. All of those things are part of our home ownership program. We do that through home buyer education, which is a requirement of receiving our funds. And so In addition to the home ownership education and the information and the actual underlying resources that we provide for the first-time home buyers, we also provide down payment assistance. And so eligible and approved applicants can receive financial assistance in the amount of $5,000 or $7,500 towards that down payment. This is a 0% loan. It's not a grant. And what that basically means is that if you were to sell the home in the future, after you've lived there for a period of time, that amount would be paid back out of the proceeds of the sale of that home. But it's not something that you're paying while you're living there in the home. $5,000 is the standard eligible amount for our first-time home buyers, but we also have a great program that provides up to $7,500 for our protectors, educators, and nurses. And we call that our PEN program. So for example, that's anybody that works in public protection, like police or EMTs, anybody who works in education. It could be anywhere from a teacher to a principal to a parapro to somebody who works in the cafeteria.
Oh,
All
wow.
you have to do is be employed in an education by an educational entity, as well as healthcare, and of course our active military. So those down payment assistance funds are available to Georgians that come through our program. It's important to note that you do have to have a certain medium credit score, but we recognize that sometimes people have to work toward that. And so the lenders that are involved in our programs, they're very supportive and very helpful when it comes to helping borrowers work to achieve that goal of improving their credit, et cetera, to meet the requirements of the program. I mentioned that they have to complete a homebuyer education class. And if you have any questions about the Georgia Dream program, you can email. This is also a direct email address. It's housing@dca.ga.gov. Again, that's housing, HOUSING @dca.ga.gov. And I don't know if you have any questions, Representative Stovall, before I go on to rental assistance and some other housing related programs.
Yes, I did. And thank you for that. And that's definitely great that our, like you said, the PN is, I'm assuming that's the PEN.
Yes, PEN.
Okay,
Yep.
For those who take care of us, being able to allow them to be able to stay, even in the communities, I can see economically how in education, I love education. I served on the education committee.
Yes.
And I know one of the challenges with the schools were trying to identify highly qualified teachers and the importance of even those teachers living in those communities in which they teach, so that they can maybe have a feel of that community that the children are coming from.
Absolutely.
So many times they might not have been able to get the assistance that was needed. So I think that's great, even with the police officers and all of them being able to stay in the community, nurses being able to stay in the communities. So that $7,500 I think is great as a grant. And even for the regular people like myself that are not a part of the PN committee or the PN group,
Yeah.
being able to get it. So with the housing down payment assistance program, I know they take the classes. Are some of those the same classes that some of the real estate agencies are giving, or is that something different?
So the lenders that work with our program are using our home ownership program, and they do have to go through our home ownership program because it's specific to the loans that we are, the mortgages that we're providing. And so if anybody is pursuing it, they should be utilizing one of our lenders. That information is available on our website. And typically what happens is if someone starts working with a realtor, if they say, I'm interested in the Georgia Dream program, then that lender knows exactly how to get in touch with our program, because there probably are a few different benefits that people can get. For example, if you're a veteran, you probably can get some special rates or that type of thing. But people are very familiar with the Georgia Dream program. The state has been implementing this program for many, many decades. And so we are well known as the state's first time home buyer program. So usually we get it, usually the buyer is the one who initiates the conversation because they're already aware of our program. But if they come upon a realtor, maybe a new realtor or someone who is not familiar with our program, all they have to do is reach out to that email, and we can communicate and provide more information. We actually have classes that are available weekly for real estate agents. So any real estate agent can sign up for one of our programs, and it's just another avenue for us to get the opportunity out there to the first-time home buyers about this 0% loan and the opportunity for the down payment assistance. And remember, it's anybody who works within those employers. So you could be a dispatcher at a police department, you could be an investigator. You don't have to be, the frontline police officer. Same thing with nursing. You could be an accountant working for a hospital entity, as long as your employer fits within one of those categories: protectors, educators, or the healthcare environment. We're able to provide that 7,500.
Okay. One other last question, and I'll let you go on to the housing assistance.
Sure.
Other question is, now with COVID and so much that's needed with affecting everybody's credit, for slow payment and all of that. So how would that down payment assistance be adjusted during this time of COVID for those individuals who want to be able to apply for that down payment assistance, and even for purchasing the home?
So the down payment assistance itself is not going to be adjusted. We're going to be available to give that amount, but it's a threshold qualification, if you will, is that you're going to have a certain credit score. I'll go ahead and tell you right now that credit score is about 640 for individuals that are seeking to enter the program. And many times people may be, right under 600 or somewhere between 600 and 400, and they're able to work with our lenders that will give them some counseling about how to pay off things and how to get that ratio right so that you're ready for home ownership. Because we all know that much like even when you're renting these days, they're requiring credit scores and things like that. So it is a requirement for a lot of different housing settings. But a lot of our first-time home buyers are very happy when they've been through the program, because it kind of brings them up on all levels. You've paid down some of your bills, you've made some put some savings away, you've learned about what happens if the water heater goes out, all sorts of different things that you need to be a homeowner. So they're very pleased that they've been able to go through it. You might have to wait a little while. So for example, it might take you 6 months to get your credit score back up, but you're still going to be ready and eligible. And our program is still going to be here when you get ready to make that decision. So we tell people, if they're not ready right away, they certainly can work toward that. And our housing counselors that we work with are willing to and available to help with that.
And that's wonderful, because when you think about building up a community, being a landowner as a homeowner helps the local community, the local government, as well as the state and even the federal, but more so the local, because you're looking at taxpayer money. You being able to say, I'm a taxpayer and my property tax is going towards the school system, it's going towards local government. Even though when you're renting, the landlord is paying the taxes for you, but being able to say that I'm am the one that's being able to be a homeowner, and it gives you a lot of privileges in your community. Okay, thank you so very much on that. And so let's talk about that housing assistance, because I know everybody's eager to hear about that.
Well, yeah, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the rental assistance. And before I talk about the new bucket of rental assistance that's available, I just wanted to mention just a little bit about programs that your listeners may be aware of. I'll start with the Housing Choice Voucher Program, formerly known as Section 8. That is a tenant-based rental assistance program that assists extremely low and low-income individuals and families with rent payments. So it is a rent subsidy of sorts. The family pays a portion and the federal government pays a portion. This program provides opportunities, obviously, for families to live in safe and affordable rental properties. And the determination on your eligibility is based on a calculation that says that the family's income cannot exceed 50% of the median income for that city or county. So that's a little bit of detail that you only really get into once you're applying. I will say this: DCA has about 14,000 vouchers that we administer across the state. And again, that is statewide. There is a long wait list for those vouchers. And so people are regularly applying, people that are very eligible in need and regularly applying for those vouchers. But we only have what we are allotted by the federal government. So our allotment comes from HUD, Housing and Urban Development. And so we get that allocation of vouchers, and that's the amount approximately that we have for the state. All of those vouchers are utilized right now, with the exception of some that are available to veterans. And so if any veterans are listening that need housing, please do contact our office, and I'll give you actually you can use that same housing at dca.ga.gov email. But veterans, we do have some specific vouchers. They're called VASH vouchers that are available for veterans. On the regular voucher side, I will say that over the next couple of months, we are going to be opening up the wait list. Okay. We're opening the wait list not because we have a huge amount of eligible spots, but we're opening it because we need to refresh it and make sure that we've got accurate information on the wait list. Because as you might imagine, the wait list has been been around for years and years. And so people move around, people change their location, and this is an opportunity for people to submit their names and their eligibility. Now, when that opportunity comes up, it will be well publicized across the state through all of our housing channels, and people will be able to submit their names, and that will give us an opportunity to refresh who is in need and where they are, where they're living, and what they're doing, and what their needs are. But that's a little bit about how the Housing Choice Voucher program works. It is based on a formula, and unfortunately, no state has enough vouchers for all the citizens that are in need. But it is certainly something that that we at DCA administer across the state. Now, I want to also be clear that in some of the metropolitan areas, they have their own vouchers, right? Oh, okay. So we don't have it for the whole state. So there are about 6 other areas, and I won't name them all because I'll leave someone off. But as you might imagine, City of Atlanta, Columbus, Augusta, Clayton County, Savannah, they all have their own allotments, if you will, of vouchers. So DCA does a statewide kind of has the balance of state, we call it. But those areas do have their own vouchers, and they run their programs similar to ours, but not necessarily at the same time that we do. So if you're living in the city of Atlanta and you happen to hear that we're opening, it doesn't necessarily mean that the city of Atlanta is opening their wait list. The other program that is huge that people are hearing quite a bit about is our rental assistance program. And that is a program that came about at the end of the year. The federal government made a large chunk of money available to the states for rental assistance. I will say that in Georgia, at the state level, we have about $510 million available for rental assistance. And the idea is that while we've been in this COVID pandemic phase over the past almost year now, that people have been unable to pay their rents. We know that there's been an eviction moratorium in place, and that basically just means that a landlord can try to proceed with eviction, but they can't actually get it processed through the court system because there's a hold on that. And so people, you may hear that on the news or on the radio, that there's a moratorium in place. That means that the landlords cannot act on that right that they have to evict people because of non-payment. This money that we have received is going to basically pay that back rent. Okay, so it has been awarded to the state so that we can pay the back rent for all of the individuals that meet the qualifications that kind of go along with the money. We at DCA are going to be working with landlords to determine what those arrearages are. and to pay those balances on behalf of the tenants. And that is a program that is going to be kicking off in March. And it's going to take a little bit of time to gather all the information and all the documentation that we need. But just to be clear, the federal government has put an additional moratorium in place to put a hold on those evictions. So in most instances, people should not be experiencing eviction from where they are. We know that there's special circumstances, and people are unfortunately being affected that way because landlords are proceeding with different types of actions. But on the big picture, DCA is going to be opening up a portal in March that is going to allow landlords to apply for the amounts that they have been owed. And, if you're a landlord and you have 10 units and people haven't paid for a year, you're going to provide us that documentation, and we're going to pay, and that tenant is going to be allowed to stay in that particular housing. And so the idea is that the federal government and the state government want individuals to stay housed, stay safe, stay out of a COVID environment, be able to continue with their education if they're having to have school at home, all of those things. And this money is coming, and it's underway. We have a very short timeline to dispense it because the legislation that provided the funds indicates that the money needs to be spent by the end of the year. And so we are working toward that, and we're excited about the opportunity to help so many people that have not been able to pay their rent due to all sorts of COVID related things, unemployment, hardships, and those types of things.
So, of course, I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
So someone on Facebook asked, was that 510 million or billion?
Million.
Okay. So, Lawrence, that's 510 million. So even when I think about billion, our state budget usually is around 27 billion. So when he asked that question, I was like, I know it's not billion, but
right.
I wanted to make sure that I asked that question.
Yes.
The second question is, I definitely want to commend DCA on your forward thinking for the landlord, on the part of the landlord. Because what's happening, I know one set of money has come down to the counties, and they've been dispersing it out to local nonprofits, the counties and the cities. Mm-hmm. And then, that waiting list, even with getting a response back from them, I've been hearing a lot from people, has been kind of heartbreaking because they fill out all the information and then they say, oh, we ran out of money. It was like, you just made the announcement that you had the money. Yes. And so, so now they're scrambling, trying to figure out what to do, trying to figure out, some court systems have it where you have to also file that moratorium, the form with them as well as with your landlord. So there's a lot of confusion with information, and people just need a stable place. Because when you think about our education for our kids, with all of them, majority of them doing distance learning, their unstableness does affect their education and affects the mental aspect of the parent and of the student, because you don't know if the sheriff gonna knock on your door and you try to figure out how am I gonna pay my heat and all of that. Now, do you all also handle light heat, the energy assistance part?
So I'm so glad that you said utilities, because we are not responsible for LIHEAP. That's actually connected to DFACS and DHS, but there actually is also utility assistance money in this package. And so we will also be working to cover that. We're hoping to do that again at a high level, working with EMCs and utility providers to have them give us documentation about the people that are owing and the arrearages that are due. And then we're going to pay that on behalf of that documented group. And I would just say to anybody, across the state who may have been applying for funds on the local level, hold on to all your documentation, your copies and all of that, because we are expecting that there's going to be, as we said, 510 million with an M dollars available to disperse across the state. And, if you start doing the math in terms of the number of people that have been displaced or behind on their rent, we get just to about that amount. We've had some studies that have been done based on input that people have provided related to the census and other things. You know, questions like how likely do you feel to be able to pay your rent in months going forward? That's how they came up with the projections. But our amounts that we've received should be enough to cover what we're experiencing in the state. And so, and that's what the federal government intended. So we're hoping that that people will be made whole, that landlords will be made whole, because we recognize that they too are a big part of this equation. We don't want any landlords that are, you know, also have mortgages or you know, monies due on their properties to be behind and in arrearages. And we know that they have been, to a certain extent, having to pay these monies in advance to keep their own properties afloat. So yeah, that's a big part of it. And we're excited about this program and look to see more in March. And we know that there will be a flood of requests and communications. We are preparing for that in terms of our staffing and our technology to receive all of those requests. It's not going to be like you're going to get a check the next day, but you are going to be able to put all your information in, and we're trying to provide it in a clean and clear way so that everybody knows what they need to submit so that they can get paid in a timely fashion.
So will you all be having new job opportunities that are opening, or you're using your existing staff, you know, just in case somebody's looking for a job?
Let me tell you something, Representative Stovall, that's a great question. We are going to have a few additional positions. People can always look at the DCA website. Jobs are also posted across the state at the Team Georgia website, but we're also going to be hiring a good amount of temps to do this work, because as I mentioned, the program is intended to get the money out quickly. And so they've only given us to the end of the year, to really till September, to the end of September, to expend the funds and then, you know, do all the reporting, et cetera. So right now we're going to be looking for some supervisory people that you know, have worked in data entry and data intake and IT, as well as call center work to do some of that work. So definitely check at our website for those full-time positions, or at Team Georgia.
Okay, I might apply since I'm not employed as a legislator anymore, so I don't have a conflict of interest.
Well, you would be very knowledgeable. You'd be very knowledgeable.
Oh, thank you so very much for that information.
You're welcome. Rusty, are you going to say a little bit about jobs and?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There is a rain cell directly over my head right now. I apologize if the listeners are hearing thunder and the rain. But when I started, I mentioned that DCA works in the realm of housing. We work in the realm of economic development and job creation. I said we worked in the realm of infrastructure and communities. We've talked about infrastructure to a degree with broadband. We've talked about housing, but we really haven't talked about that other leg of the stool, which is the job creation and economic development, which is essential to communities all across the state. I want to hit on just a couple of programs quickly that we do offer. And I want to be very clear. We do not have grants for businesses. That violates the state constitution. We have loan opportunities for businesses, and we can do grant programs or loan programs to communities, to city or county governments, to do things that are going to support the business community. But I just want the listeners to know they can't come looking to DCA for grant funding. I apologize. I'm sorry. We have to say that all the time, but that's just the reality. Two programs that I want to point out are very successful within the state. The first of those is our Downtown Development Revolving Loan Fund. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a loan program in downtown areas, those historic areas, the core downtown, where the community comes together, where you get that sense of community. You know it whenever you see it in any community, what that true downtown is. But we don't do these alone. We work with traditional lenders in order to get funds out into the hands of these businesses so that they can create the jobs, so that they can have that impact on Main Street in your community. It could be anything from an ice cream shop to the barber to you name it, whatever is the business that makes up that typical downtown area. And we're excited with the opportunities that we have to make funds available to them. We've also got another program. While I said the downtown loan fund is truly confined to that downtown area, the state small business credit initiative is a program that we can take anywhere within the state. And these are funds that came out of the economic recovery a decade ago. And what happened is we loaned those out, brought those funds back in, and now we have the opportunity to perpetuate that with a continuing loan program that is able to serve businesses all across the state. It gives additional financing options. It makes that project that the bank can't quite work out on their underwriting. It gives them the ability to figure out how to make that work in partnership with us. It's another program that we partner with the lenders on. So we're not in competition with the banks and the credit unions and those traditional lenders. We're an additional resource. And whenever we can come in and be a partner to them and make a deal far more attractive, it's going to ultimately result in either a lower interest rate or even access to funding that businesses in all parts of the state are able to tap into. We're excited about the opportunities that exist there. And Representative Stovall, at the beginning, you mentioned John Van Brunt, who serves our Metro Atlanta region as our regional representative. There are 11 more like him. So if listeners all around the state want to reach out to his counterpart as the front door into the agency, they're more than welcome to do so. Go to our website, dca.ga.gov, and you'll be able to find those representatives all across the state. They know the DCA programs, and they can point you to the right place in which to access our resources. Tanya mentioned the vouchers and how we work in certain areas with vouchers. With federal funds, our community development programs work very similarly. We get funds from the federal government to work in certain parts of the state. However, funds go directly to some of the more urban parts of the state, specifically the community development block grant program, that they're able to work within the community with nonprofits, with whomever, in order to make a difference to solve those critical issues of the community. With the funds that we have, we take those out into the non-urban parts of the state. That's just how it's structured from HUD. And we're able to work with them to enhance housing, to improve public facilities, to enhance infrastructure throughout those communities. So we're working all across the state in which to make an impact in the lives of Georgians each and every day.
Thank you so very much. There's a lot of information. So let me make sure I understand. So with our small businesses, because that's one of the things that, you know, for I think 7 years now by Site Magazine, we've been rated as #1 place to do business. And I remember first hearing it when Governor Deal was governor. So I've been listening ever since then and said, okay, I wonder we're going to get it again this year. But, you know, with coronavirus hitting so many of our small business community, we definitely going to have to figure out how to sustain and keep those alive that are alive. And then even moving forward, growing other small businesses. So they can, if they go to the dca.ga.gov website, will they click on development, or they can maybe Google in the search engine small business loans, or what would they, so that they can get more information? You're muted.
On the website,
Okay.
we have a search bar, and on that search bar, I would type in small business credit or revolving loan fund, and you'll be able to access those programs. And it's going to take you to the appropriate links there on the website, and we've got tons of information there. Okay.
Thank you so very much. Now, is that a different program from the incentives that are offered by the Department of Economic Development? So that's something totally different, right?
That is different. When the Department of Economic Development is working with one of these large companies who's considering coming to the state of Georgia, there is the potential for them to offer some incentives. What happens in those cases, we serve as the financial institution behind those commitments that the state makes through the Department of Economic Development. So we work as a great partner with them. We work hand in glove, And we work together to ensure that those commitments that are made on behalf of the state to bring jobs to Georgia are fulfilled.
All right. One last question. A lot of times, I know in Clayton County, we hear a lot about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 communities. And I know in Clayton County, they are tier 1. And sometimes people think tier 1 means we number 1. I have to tell them, no, that means we would only get to number 4, but right now we're at 1. Can you just briefly talk about that tier, those tier classifications? Because I know they're like that all across the state. I know they can go on DCA website and actually look at their particular county as far as those tier levels.
Absolutely. There are 4 tiers, like you said, that we divide the state up on an annual basis. Each December, we release a new ranking, and we use 3 criteria in there. And really, these criteria are looking at the economic health within the community. One of those criteria is going to be your unemployment rate. And that unemployment rate is a very important indicator on the financial health of that community. We take into account income levels as well. And as we start looking at these data points, we've got a formula that it's fed into. And what we do is we rank the first 72 counties as they are the higher distress. And that becomes your tier 1 counties. And through that, we've got an economic development incentive structure in place where jobs that are created in tier 1 counties get a higher tax credit to the business that creates the jobs. So there is an incentive for them to create jobs in the distressed parts of the state. And as you mentioned, Clayton County is a tier 1 county based on these criteria, and it has the highest credit for jobs being created in the state. As the financial strength of a county grows, those incentives are dialed back, because what we want to ensure that we're doing is giving that encouragement for jobs to be created in those areas that need them the most, whether they're urban or rural. We've got both urban and rural communities in this tier 1 classification. We want to make sure that those are the parts of the state where these good jobs are going to go, and give people the opportunity to earn a wage that's going to allow them to get into the housing to spend as they need to support themselves and their family.
Thank you. And I can definitely see, how DCA plays a major role. I mean, all our departments play a major role, but like I said, you all have those 8 arms times 5 different things that you all are doing in our state. And looking at the housing aspect, we started out talking about home ownership, the Georgia Dream program that allows people to be able to have their down payment assistance of $5,000 or $7,500, depending on if you're a part of the PIN category for the $7,500. And then also we start talking about rental housing assistance as well. And then we went into talking about the development part of a community, because all these things play a major part in sustaining and having a place where you want to work, live, and play. So I really appreciate the work that you all do in DCA. I appreciate the legislators and the governor with, the passage of a lot of the legislation, like the broadband. I was at the Capitol when we, those couple of years where we went back and forth with AT&T and some of the other organizations. We're trying to find that right fit, even with the EMCs and the local government, because they didn't want certain type of the towers to look a certain way in the community. So I remember hearing all those conversations. So to be able to see where the state has progressed a lot forward with that broadband, and we definitely saw the need for broadband when coronavirus hit our communities, because not just for education, but also for economics part, because a lot of people had to work from home, like y'all are working from home. And so having that connectivity, and then you look at telehealth with medicine, and that, the usage of that has increased. So, being able to have all those, and, with broadband, especially in those rural areas, it will bring the economic development that is needed across the state, and kind of help equalize out those rural versus the metro area. Tanya, I didn't know if you had any closing remarks that you wanted to make any other things that we didn't get a chance to talk about. We have about 10 minutes left.
Sure, sure. And of course, we're happy to take any questions as well. I just wanted to maybe mention a couple of our other housing programs. And again, if anybody has any questions about housing, please just do contact us at housing@dca.ga.gov. But in addition to our home ownership programs, as well as and our rental assistance programs, we've got some specialty programs. And you all may be familiar with them, you may have heard about them, but they include things like our Emergency Solutions Grant. And that is a program that is available to citizens that are homeless or imminently homeless. And so that means if you have been evicted, or if you've lost your home, or if you've fallen on hard times and you have maybe have to stay with a friend or a family member, but you are essentially homeless, we have funds available to help with that. And again, these are federal programs, and so that money is available, and it's you would contact our office. And because again, it's a statewide program, we've got agencies, nonprofit entities, and some local governments, but entities across the state that help us administer those funds. So if you were to call in, you would get directed to one of those entities that could help you closer to where you are. So, if you're in Dougherty County, or, in Valdosta, or anywhere in the state, we're going to have a resource for you. And so sometimes it may take maybe a little bit of a distance, because we don't have people in we're a big state, but we do have we do have the state covered in terms of the resource. And so we do have those emergency solutions grant funds for people that are experiencing homelessness, or that are could potentially be homeless, the threat of homelessness. We also have housing opportunities for persons with AIDS, and that is a program that has been around for decades. It is a federally funded program. These funds are made specifically available for that population. And again, many times those people are homeless or imminently homeless. And so that is a whole nother separate pot of money that is available for persons with AIDS or HIV. So that is another resource. It's a great resource. We also have a reentry partnership housing program. This program is for individuals who are exiting incarceration, coming out of incarceration, and looking for a housing opportunity in maybe the community where they came from, or maybe somewhere else across the state. It's not like we have a location for everyone, because it is difficult to kind of set up those types of housing opportunities. But there are many jurisdictions and individuals and landlords across the state who are committed to assisting and helping that population. And so what we do is we match up individuals with the housing that happens to be available. And like I said, you don't always get to go back to where your mom lives, or where your family is, but you may have to go a county over, or in someplace else in the state, based on the housing that's available. So we have that program. We also have a program called Shelter Plus Care, which provides housing to individuals that are I want to say 62 and older, but I could be wrong with that number. It might be a slightly lower number, who are experiencing disability needs. And so that is a disability focused type of housing. All of these things are temporary. They're not intended to be permanent housing. Sometimes people that are in these temporary categories can transition into a voucher or into some other type of home ownership, but we do have those available. And then we also have, let me make sure I've looked at my list. That's the bulk of the housing that we have available through our office. Now, I will say that in addition to all of those forms of rental assistance, our agency is responsible for helping developers build affordable housing. So when affordable housing developments are built in a county or in a city, Sometimes they have received what we call housing tax credits from DCA. That is not a cash contribution. That is a credit, if you will, on the amount of taxes that they might be paying on income that they would have put into that property. So it's not we're not giving them those credits in the form of cash. It's a tax credit. But I say that to say that there are many affordable housing developments across the state, and we have a resource called GeorgiaHousingSearch.org. And again, that's it. Just the way I said it, spell Georgia out, GeorgiaHousingSearch.org. And it allows you to go into a website, put in your zip code, and to find affordable housing that might be available in whatever area you've designated. And so it's got a few search features. It's not as sophisticated as like apartments.com type of thing, because it's just the network of landlords that want to be included in our affordable housing framework. But people are surprised sometimes at the resources that they can find through that search. And so that's another kind of broad research that people can certainly use.
Well, thank you so very much, you all. I know this has been a great conversation. Unfortunately, time is not on our side. We have about 4 minutes left with the show. And I want to, first of all, thank Rusty and Tanya again, our deputy commissioners with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. A lot of great information. I learned something new that I didn't know, a lot of stuff new that I didn't know. And especially when you start talking about the affordable housing, those companies, because sometimes you wonder when you go and apply for the application, and they may ask you certain questions on the application about your income eligibility. And that's because they are getting a tax credit for that. And they have so many housing units that they have to apply that tax credit for. Exactly. And if they're not, then they have to answer the DCA. So you all know of any apartment complexes out there that are saying one thing but doing something else, which I had a few in Clayton County I was kind of questionable about. But this is the organization, the State Department agency that you would go to. So thank you so very much. I'm going to get ready to close out our time. It has really been a lot of information. You saw my head going down because I was writing a lot of notes. So I can be able to recap our meeting today. And thank you again. I thank John Van Brunt and also Davia for making sure that we had the connection to be able to listen to Rusty and Tanya this afternoon. So as I close out, you've been listening to WCEG Talk Radio, your worldwide community empowerment group. I'm Valencia Stovall with Issues and Answers. And my announcements, I have about 2 minutes to make my announcements. This evening at 7 p.m. for all of those who always wonder how does policies, we talk about policies today, how do they affect your everyday lives? I've started the Stovall Policy Series that will be taking place at 7 p.m. tonight, the first set. There is a small fee of $30 for these workshops, but they'll be being held this Monday, next Monday, which will be the 22nd, March the 1st, and March the 8th. You still have time to go and register. Go to www.GAYouthCareerCenter.com. That's GAYouthCareerCenter.com. And you can register for any of the classes, the one that's tonight. We'll be talking about your interests as far as your local, state, federal government. How does all of that work together? We'll be talking about how do you find your elected officials, because the money and all these things that you heard DCA talking about, that comes from the elected officials setting policies, voting on the budget. And so if the budget's not there, they can't do their jobs to make sure that our community is serviced. And it's a nonpartisan view look. So I'm not on any kind of party side. It's nonpartisan what we'll be discussing. Also, on this Saturday, February the 20th, I will be participating in the 4th I Am Powerful Teen Summit. And it will be a virtual teen summit. And so I'm one of the 10 speakers, and you can go to, hold on, where's the website? Okay, changeforhope.org. That's the number 4, HOPE, HOPE.org. It is free registration, so no cost for that, you all. So if you have a teen in middle or high school, we're going to be talking about topics from your voice, peer pressure, the uncertainty about the future, parental pressure, pressure to succeed academically. We're going to have a talk about technology, leadership, and mental illness. And so we have 2 great teams who will be the ones that will be facilitating, being our mistress and master of ceremony for it. That's this Saturday starting at 11 o'clock, the I Am Powerful Teen Summit. I think that is it for the announcements. I will look forward to seeing everyone back again. I will be back not on Monday, but I'll be back March the 1st with some new topics. I don't know which ones we're going to talk about yet, so you just have to be tuning in and watch all the posts that I do. But thank you again, Rusty and Tanya. Thank you, WCEG, for another fabulous event show on WCEG Talk Radio. And we look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.